Good morning. My name is Deacon Tim Donohue, and I'm from Holy Name Parish in West Roxbury. And I have a message today for the Wednesday in the fifth week of Easter. Our gospel today is the same gospel that we had on Sunday, so I chose the first reading, a reading from the Acts of the Apostles to read to you, and then just offer just a short reflection that we might be able to use as we go through the fifth week of Easter, coming up to, in just 3 weeks, I believe, Pentecost, which is the gift of the Holy Spirit. And that's kind of what we're talking about today. So I hope you're well. I hope you've all gotten your vaccinations. I know I have, and that's enabled me to come back to church and to be present on the altar. I hope all of you are able to find a place to get vaccinated and go ahead and get that done. I think it's very important, not only for yourself, but for everybody else. So let's go to the reading today, a reading from the Acts of the Apostles. Some who had come down from Judea were instructing the brothers, "Unless you are circumcised according to the Mosaic practice, you cannot be saved." Because there arose no little discussion or dissension and debate by Paul and Barnabas with them, it was decided that Paul, Barnabas, and some others should go up to Jerusalem to the apostles and presbyters and ask this question. They were sent on their journey by the church and passed through Phoenicia and Samaria, telling of the conversion of the Gentiles, and brought great joy to all brethren. When they arrived in Jerusalem, they were welcomed by the church, as well as by the apostles and the presbyters, and they reported what God had done with them. But some from the party of the Pharisees who had become believers stood up and said, "It is necessary to circumcise them and direct them to observe the Mosaic law." The apostles and the presbyters met together to see about this matter. Come, Holy Spirit. Remember the readings from just a few weeks ago when the disciples were locked in a room, fearful of going outside, afraid that they might find the same fate that Jesus found, being persecuted, being tortured, and put to death? They were fearful, and they waited together, praying together. And Jesus showed up in their midst and promised to send the Holy Spirit. And he did. We celebrate in 4 weeks Pentecost. The Holy Spirit brought the gifts of wisdom, understanding, prudence, fortitude, knowledge, piety, and fear of the Lord to sustain them and strengthen them in the early days of spreading this new religion. The disciples received the Holy Spirit and then headed out into the world to change the world. One of the early challenges was this issue that we read about today that confronted St. Paul and Barnabas as they went teaching others. The question to St. Paul and Barnabas was, is this new church going to be inclusive or exclusive? Should we be conservative? Should we be careful not to rattle the faith of these new Jewish church leaders who have joined us and come to pray with us? Should we risk losing them or not? Is it worth it? Or it was the intention of Jesus and the church that he founded to open its doors to everyone, not to put restrictions on how or who could enter the church. Do we risk being exclusive, or should we be inclusive and include everybody? Do we hold on to the old traditions, or can we find the courage to stretch into new ideas and embrace breathtaking changes and follow that message that we hear so clearly from Jesus in this 3 years of teaching us to love one another. I can only believe that the Holy Spirit brought his gifts forward. St. Paul and Barnabas realized they needed to seek an answer, so they went back to the community, the faith community in Jerusalem, to pray and discuss and to ponder. You can imagine the people in Jerusalem were dealing mostly with Jews who wanted to convert to this new religion. Paul and Barnabas had gone out to where the Gentiles were the people who were non-Jews that might want to come. And that was the source of the issue that they were talking about. We know today how this was resolved. We know that the church was founded to be inclusive, not exclusive. But I think today we're called to imagine how big an issue this was. Think about it. There was a small community of Jews that they were concerned with here in making this decision, and there was a whole world full of Gentiles. But they didn't know all of those Gentiles yet. They hadn't imagined, perhaps, that the church could be as big as it is today, 1.2 billion people. The impact of this decision would be huge. So maybe the message today is that we all have challenging issues in our lives, things that we're not 100% clear on. Certainly St. Paul had deep, deep faith and was very committed to his faith, but he had questions. We all have questions. And how do we resolve those questions? St. Paul put it to prayer, and he put it to the community to pray together, to bring the community together, have a discussion, and talk about it. We have a tradition of that practice now, how St. Paul and Barnabas and St. Peter struggled with this decision. So let's use that tradition, and let's, for ourselves, when we're pondering something, when we understand that we have a challenge, let us bring it to prayer. And let's ask for the Holy Spirit's help. Come, Holy Spirit. God bless you, and I hope your problems will be small ones this week, the 5th week of Easter. And I hope that we have a sunny day soon, and God bless you. We'll see you soon.